Imagine stepping into a home where silence is not peace, but emptiness. A living room filled with furniture yet lacking warmth. Walls decorated with family portraits, but the faces seem distant, disconnected, almost strangers to each other. A kitchen where meals are prepared but rarely shared. A house that is full, yet somehow feels abandoned. This is what Pope Leo XIV warns us against when he speaks of the home becoming a desert. Not a desert of sand and wind, but a desert of the spirit, a place where love and prayer have evaporated into thin air. The Pope does not speak of this as a distant theory. He speaks to you, to me, to every family living today in a world that rushes faster than our hearts can follow. He points to the hidden crisis that no newspaper headline captures. The slow drying up of the family altar. That sacred corner, whether simple or adorned, where a family once gathered to pray, to listen, to lift their eyes together toward something greater than themselves. Pope Leo XIV tells us that the altar of the family is not just a wooden table, nor a candle, nor an image on the wall. It is the space where the home breathes. Without it, he says, the home suffocates. Without it, the home begins to turn into a desert, but with it, life returns. He paints the image of water flowing into dry soil, reviving what seemed lifeless, a child hearing the voice of their parents not in commands but in prayer, a couple finding strength not in themselves but in God's presence, the elderly whispering wisdom not out of duty but out of love. And here comes the question that Pope Leo XIV throws to us like a challenge. How many homes today still have that altar? How many parents still take the time to light the candle of faith in their children's eyes? How many sons and daughters have ever seen their fathers kneel, not in defeat, but in reverence? The Pope insists that the altar is not lost because the world is darker. It is lost because we allow distractions to take its place. Screens glow where candles once did. Notifications replace whispered prayers. We talk endlessly, yet rarely listen. This is why he calls us to restore the family altar, to turn again toward what gives meaning. He is not asking for cathedrals inside our homes, but for the courage to reclaim one corner, one moment, one gesture that declares, "This house belongs to God." He reminds us that every home, no matter how small, no matter how modest, can become a sacred space. A kitchen table can be an altar. A whispered blessing can be incense. A shared word of forgiveness can be a hymn. But Pope Leo XIV does not stop at poetic images. He warns us clearly. When the altar disappears, the family fractures. When prayer is absent, misunderstandings multiply. When God is removed, emptiness sneaks in. He says the desert does not come all at once. It creeps slowly, one forgotten prayer at a time, one skipped conversation at a time, until the heart of the home beats faintly, almost silent. And then, with a voice both tender and firm, he invites us to act. To ask ourselves tonight, when we enter our homes, is this a house, or is this a desert? Do we gather here only to eat and sleep, or do we find strength here to face the world? Have we filled our rooms with objects and forgotten to fill them with meaning? The Pope says the difference between a deserted house and a sacred home is not money, not decoration, not luxury, but presence. The presence of God, the presence of love, the presence of one another. He recalls the early Christians who, in times of persecution, did not always have churches, but always had homes. Their homes became churches. Around a simple table, bread was broken, prayers were whispered, and the faith grew stronger than empires. Pope Leo XIV asks, if they could do it under threat of death, why can't we do it under the comfort of freedom? If they turned a small room into a sanctuary, why do we hesitate to turn our living room into a place of blessing? And perhaps the most piercing question he leaves us with is this: what legacy will we leave? Will our children inherit a house full of gadgets, but empty of God? Will they remember their parents' endless rush? Or will they remember a quiet night when they prayed together? Will they tell their own children, "In my home, we prayed, we forgave, we loved"? Or will they say, "In my home, we lived like strangers under one roof"? Pope Leo XIV insists that the altar is not about the past, it is about the future. It is the anchor that prevents the home from drifting into emptiness. It is the fire that keeps the family from freezing in indifference. It is the fountain that keeps the desert from swallowing the home whole. And so he leaves us not with condemnation but with invitation. He says, start today, restore the altar, light the candle, speak the prayer, forgive the wound, open the Bible, let the desert turn into a garden again. But here, dear listener, the Pope's message is only beginning. For he not only speaks of the altar as a symbol, but as a path that leads us from silence to song, from emptiness to fullness, from desert to oasis. He begins to unfold a vision. Would you like me to continue writing this into a multi-part ongoing script, so each upload feels like a series of unfolding reflections from Pope Leo XIV? When the Pope speaks of a deserted house, he does not only mean 4 walls and a roof. He means the absence of presence, the slow exile of the sacred from our daily lives. He sees the danger of a world where family members occupy the same space but live in separate universes. The father behind one screen, the mother behind another, the children lost in devices, all under the same roof but never meeting in heart. He calls this the silent exile of love. And he warns that a house without communion, even if it has food and laughter, will one day taste bitterness because it lacks the bond that only God can sustain. The Pope does not use vague words. He tells us that when love becomes only convenience, when forgiveness becomes rare, when patience runs dry, then the house already begins to desertify. He compares it to a well neglected. Little by little, the water lowers, the earth cracks, and soon the well holds nothing but dust. The home that forgets its altar, its center of prayer and unity, is just like that abandoned well. The water is still there deep in the ground, but no one draws it up. The potential of grace remains, yet no one dares to open the bucket and bring it to the surface. And as he speaks, the imagery grows stronger. He compares the home with an orchard. Trees planted years ago give fruit to those who never sowed them. In the same way, the altar you keep today will nourish lives you will never meet. He calls this the hidden legacy of faith, the fruit that ripens long after our hands are gone. Then, with solemn gravity, Pope Leo XIV names the greatest threat to the sacred home: forgetfulness. He says it is not hatred that kills the altar, but forgetfulness. A slow drifting, a quiet neglect. Families do not usually destroy their altar in anger. They simply stop turning to it. And so he pleads, do not forget. Remember, even in the rush. Remember, even in the fatigue. Remember that the altar is your lifeline. And just as his words seem to reach their peak, he begins to unfold something even more profound. He hints that the family altar is not only about the family itself, but about the church as a whole. That the strength of parishes, of communities, even of nations, begins with the strength of homes. He whispers of a deeper mystery, that every home altar reflects the great altar of the world, where heaven and earth unite. But here he pauses again, not because he is finished, but because he knows the next step requires us to listen with hearts wide open. He has shown us how to restore the altar, how to guard it, how to see its fruits stretch into generations. Yet he has not yet revealed the mystery of how the home altar connects to the altar of the church, to the Eucharist, to the very heartbeat of faith. That part of the vision he holds for what is to come. And so his message flows onward, like a river that promises to carry us further if only we will follow. Write about what the family altar means to you. Maybe it's a corner of your home where a cross hangs. Maybe it's a Bible on a shelf. Maybe it's not physical at all, but a tradition, a habit, a memory that keeps faith alive. If you've struggled to keep that altar alive, say it. If you've found ways to revive it, share them. You might be surprised at how your words become encouragement for someone across the world, someone reading who feels alone in their journey. Pope Leo XIV reminds us that the desert blooms with one drop of rain. Your comment could be that drop. Your reflection could be the spark for another family to light their candle again, to gather in prayer again, to restore their own home into a sacred space. Do not underestimate the ripple effect of your testimony. This is not just about typing on a screen. It is about sowing seeds in hidden soil, seeds that can grow into hope for people you may never meet. So I ask you, right now, before you move on to the next thing, pause and let your heart speak. Type it out. Long or short, detailed or simple, what matters is sincerity. What struck you in Pope Leo XIV's words? What resonated with your own life? What challenge are you facing in your family, and how do you hope to overcome it? Let us create not just a comment section, but a garden of stories, a chorus of voices, a living testimony that proves the home can indeed be sacred. Your comment is more than feedback. It is participation. It is your way of stepping into this vision, of making this message not only heard, but lived. And in sharing, you may discover that you are not alone, that others walk the same path, that a community is forming right here, across nations, across languages, united by the simple truth that every home deserves to be more than walls. It deserves to be a sanctuary. So go ahead, scroll down, and let your heart pour into words. Pope Leo XIV has spoken, and now it is your turn. What will you say?